Welcome. Tonight we journey far back in time, long before cities, kingdoms, or written history, to a world where early humans lived closely with the land around them. There were no roads, no buildings, and no permanent homes. Only open landscapes, changing seasons, and the steady rhythm of survival. Small groups moved together, following food, water, and shelter. Days were shaped by simple but essential tasks, and nights were spent gathered around fire, beneath a sky filled with stars. Tonight, we will explore what daily life may have been like for early humans. From quiet mornings in the wild, to peaceful nights beside the fire. The earliest morning. As the first light of day begins to spread across the land, the world is already awake. There are no buildings, no roads, no cities. Only open plains, scattered trees, and distant hills. A small group of early humans begins to stir. They rest near the entrance of a cave or beneath a natural shelter. The air is cool, and the ground still holds the quiet of the night. Slowly, movement begins. People rise, stretch, and prepare for the day ahead. There is no fixed schedule, no written plan. Only instinct, experience, and the need to survive. Living close to the land. Early humans lived in direct connection with their environment. Everything they needed came from the land around them. Food, water, shelter, and tools were all found or created using natural resources. This way of life is known as hunter-gathering. Instead of farming, people moved through the land, following seasonal patterns and the availability of food. This required a deep understanding of the environment. They learned to recognize plants, track animals, and adapt to changing conditions. Over time, this knowledge became essential for survival. Small groups and social life. Early humans lived in small groups, often made up of family members and close companions. These groups worked together to find food, care for one another, and stay safe. Cooperation was essential. Sharing resources increased the chances of survival for everyone. This social structure also played a role in human development. Over time, stronger social bonds helped shape communication, learning, and behavior. Living in groups allowed early humans to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. The first tools. One of the most important developments in early human life was the creation of tools. Simple stone tools were shaped by striking rocks together. These tools could be used for cutting, scraping, and preparing food. Over time, toolmaking became more refined. Different shapes were created for different purposes. This development reflects a key shift in human thinking. The ability to plan, create, and use tools shows early signs of problem-solving and intelligence. The growth of the human brain. As tool use became more advanced, the human brain also began to change. Scientists believe that over long periods of time, the brain grew in size and complexity. This allowed for improved memory, planning, and communication. The use of tools, cooperation within groups, and interaction with the environment all played a role in this development. These gradual changes helped early humans adapt and survive in a wide range of environments. Searching for food. A large part of the day was spent searching for food. Some members of the group gathered plants, fruits, nuts, and roots. Others may have worked together to hunt animals. Hunting required patience, coordination, and knowledge of animal behavior. Gathering required an understanding of which plants were safe to eat. This balance of hunting and gathering provided a varied diet. It also shaped the daily movement of early human groups. Movement across the land. Early humans did not stay in one place for long periods. They moved with the seasons, following food sources and water. This constant movement is known as nomadic life. Over thousands of years, early humans gradually spread across different regions of the world. Scientists refer to this as human migration. Groups moved out of Africa and into new environments, adapting as they went. This long journey shaped the diversity of human life. The discovery of fire. One of the most important moments in early human history was the control of fire. Fire provided warmth, light, and protection. It also allowed humans to cook food, making it easier to eat and digest. Cooking food may have contributed to the development of the brain by increasing the energy available from food. Fire also changed social life. At night, groups could gather around a fire, extending the day beyond sunset. Communication and early language. Communication among early humans began with simple sounds, gestures, and expressions. Over time, these forms of communication became more complex. The development of early language allowed people to share information more effectively. This helped with hunting, gathering, and social bonding. Although language developed gradually, it became one of the most important tools for cooperation. A calm midday in the prehistoric world. As the sun rises higher in the sky, the pace of activity begins to slow. The heat of the day makes movement more difficult. Some members of the group rest in shaded areas. Others continue small tasks. The land stretches quietly in all directions. There are no cities, no noise of machines. Only the natural world, moving at its own steady rhythm. The changing climate of the Ice Age. During much of early human history, the Earth experienced long periods of colder temperatures known as the Ice Age. Large parts of the planet were covered in ice, and climates were very different from today. Even in regions without ice, temperatures were often cooler and drier. These conditions shaped how early humans lived. They had to adapt to changing environments, shifting food sources, and seasonal challenges. Over time, these pressures encouraged innovation, movement, and resilience, adapting to different environments. As early humans spread across the world, they encountered many different environments. Open grasslands, dense forests, cold regions, and coastal areas all required different survival strategies. Clothing made from animal hides helped protect against cold. Shelters were adapted depending on the surroundings. Knowledge of local plants and animals became essential. This ability to adapt allowed humans to survive in places where other species could not. The use of animal resources. Animals played an important role in early human life. They provided food, but also materials for tools and clothing. Bones could be shaped into tools. Animal skins were used for warmth and shelter. Nothing was wasted. This efficient use of resources reflects a deep understanding of the environment. It also shows how survival depended on careful use of what was available. Cooperation in hunting. Hunting was often a group activity. Working together increased the chances of success. Some members of the group might track animals, while others helped guide or surround them. This required coordination and communication. Over time, these cooperative efforts strengthened social bonds. They also encouraged the development of planning and shared strategies. The role of memory and knowledge. Survival depended heavily on memory. Early humans needed to remember where food could be found, when animals migrated, and which plants were safe. This knowledge was not written down. It was shared through experience and communication. Older members of the group often played an important role in passing this knowledge on. This created a connection between generations. The beginning of symbolic thought. At some point, early humans began to think in more abstract ways. Evidence of this can be seen in early cave art and symbolic markings. Paintings of animals and handprints have been found in caves across different regions. These images may have had meaning beyond simple representation. They suggest the development of imagination, creativity, and symbolic thought. The role of fire in social life. Fire was more than a tool for survival. It became a center of social life. At night, people gathered around the fire. The warmth and light created a safe and shared space. This may have been a time for communication, storytelling, and connection. The presence of fire allowed early humans to extend their social interactions beyond daylight hours. The slow development of language. Language did not appear suddenly. It developed gradually over long periods of time. Simple sounds and gestures became more structured. words and patterns began to form. This allowed for clearer communication. Language made it easier to share ideas, teach skills, and organize group activities. It became one of the most important tools for human cooperation. The rhythm of movement and rest. Life followed a natural rhythm. Periods of activity were balanced with periods of rest. Movement across the land required energy. Rest allowed recovery. This balance was guided by the environment. The position of the sun, the availability of food, and the needs of the group all influenced daily life. The quiet of the late afternoon. As the day begins to fade, activity slows once again. The light softens. The land becomes quieter. Some return to the group. Others finish small tasks. The air cools slightly as the sun moves lower in the sky. The world begins to prepare for night. Preparing for nightfall. As the sun lowers toward the horizon, the group begins to shift its focus. Daylight is limited, and the tasks of the day begin to come to an end. People gather what they have found: plants, tools, and any food that has been collected. The group slowly returns to a familiar resting place. This may be a cave, a sheltered area, or simply a place they have used before. There is no permanent home, but there are places that feel known. Places that offer safety and some sense of familiarity. The careful tending of fire. If the group has access to fire, it becomes the center of the evening. Fire must be carefully maintained. It cannot be allowed to go out easily, as creating it again may be difficult. Small pieces of wood are added slowly. The flames are watched and adjusted. This quiet, steady attention becomes part of the nightly routine. Fire is not just a tool. It is something that must be cared for. Cooking and the transformation of food. As food is placed near the fire, something important happens. Cooking begins to change the nature of what is eaten. Heat softens food, making it easier to chew and digest. This allows the body to gain more energy from the same resources. Scientists believe that this shift had long-term effects on human development. It may have supported the growth of the brain over time. What appears simple, food over fire, becomes a major turning point in human history. The circle around the fire. As darkness settles, people gather closer together. The fire creates a natural center. Light flickers across faces and the surrounding ground. This shared space encourages interaction. Here, communication becomes more important. Sounds, gestures, and early forms of language are used. This may be where some of the earliest forms of storytelling begin. The fire brings not only warmth, but connection. Safety in the darkness. Night in the prehistoric world is very different from the day. Without artificial light, the darkness is deep. The fire provides a small area of safety. Its light and heat help keep animals at a distance. Beyond that circle, the world is unknown and unseen. This contrast between light and darkness shapes behavior. It encourages people to stay close, to remain aware, and to rely on one another. The developing human mind. As these patterns repeat over generations, the human mind continues to develop. The need to remember, communicate, and plan creates pressure for cognitive growth. Brains become more capable of processing information. Problem solving improves. Social interaction becomes more complex. These changes happen slowly, over thousands of years. But they shape what it means to be human. The importance of observation. Observation is one of the most valuable skills early humans possess. They watch the land, the sky, and the behavior of animals. They learn patterns. When certain plants grow. When animals migrate. How weather changes over time. This awareness allows them to anticipate and adapt. It creates a deep connection between people and their environment. The early sense of time. Without clocks or calendars, time is experienced differently. It is marked by natural cycles. The rising and setting of the sun. The phases of the moon. The changing of seasons. These patterns create a sense of order. Even without numbers or measurement, time is understood through repetition and observation. The first signs of culture. As communication improves and groups remain together, early forms of culture begin to appear. Shared behaviors, habits, and traditions develop. Certain ways of doing things are passed down. These patterns become part of group identity. Although simple, they represent the beginnings of human culture. The deep quiet of night. Now the fire burns low. The group begins to settle. Movement slows. Voices fade. The land around them becomes silent. Only the soft crackle of the fire remains. Above, the sky stretches wide and filled with stars. For a moment, everything is still. The cooling embers of the fire. As time passes, the fire begins to settle. Bright flames turn into softer, glowing embers. The light becomes dimmer, more gentle. Shadows stretch longer across the ground and cave walls. Someone may quietly adjust the fire, adding a small piece of wood. Not to grow it again, but to keep it alive through the night. This slow fading of the fire mirrors the slowing of the day. Everything begins to move more quietly. The importance of rest. Rest is not simply a break from activity. It is essential for survival. After a day of movement, searching, and effort, the body requires time to recover. Sleep allows energy to return. It also supports memory and learning. Even without understanding the science, early humans depend on this natural cycle. The need for rest shapes the structure of each day. Sleeping in the prehistoric world. Sleep in this world is different from modern life. There are no beds, no walls, no complete separation from the outside. People sleep close together, often near the warmth of the fire. This provides both comfort and safety. The ground may be covered with leaves, skins, or other materials. The group rests as one. This closeness strengthens social bonds and provides protection through numbers. The sounds of the night. The night is not completely silent. It carries its own set of sounds. Wind moves softly across the land. Distant animals call out. Occasionally, something shifts in the darkness. These sounds are familiar, but they still require attention. Even in rest, there is awareness. This balance between calm and alertness is part of life. The human body and adaptation. Over long periods of time, the human body adapts to this way of life. Walking long distances becomes normal. Hands become skilled at shaping tools and handling objects. Eyes adjust to changing light conditions. The body becomes suited to movement, endurance, and awareness. These physical adaptations work alongside changes in the brain. Together, they support survival in a wide range of environments. The role of curiosity. Curiosity plays an important role in early human life. The desire to explore, observe, and understand helps people learn. Trying new tools, testing new paths, and noticing changes in the environment all contribute to knowledge. This curiosity encourages innovation. It leads to small changes that, over time, become significant developments. The gradual expansion of human life. As generations pass, early humans continue to spread across the land. New areas are explored. Different environments are encountered. Each new region brings new challenges and opportunities. Over time, humans become one of the most widespread species on Earth. This expansion happens slowly, step by step, across thousands of years. The connection between fire and thought. The presence of fire may have influenced more than just survival. The extended time around firelight creates opportunities for interaction. With more time to communicate, observe, and reflect, thinking becomes more complex. Some scientists suggest that this social time may have contributed to cognitive development. The fire becomes a place not just of warmth, but of growth. The gentle return of night stillness. As the night continues, even the smallest movements begin to fade. The last adjustments to the fire are made. The group settles more deeply into rest. The world grows quieter with each passing moment. The land, once active and full of movement, becomes still. The world before everything else. This is a world before cities, before language as we know it, before written history. A world shaped by nature, movement, and survival. And yet, within it, the foundations of everything to come are already forming. Slowly, quietly, over time. The first light of a new day. Slowly, the darkness begins to fade. A faint light appears along the horizon. The stars begin to disappear one by one. The air feels cooler just before sunrise. Then, gradually, the first light of a new day spreads across the land. This cycle repeats again and again. For early humans, each new day begins the same way, with light returning to the world, waking in the natural world. As the light grows stronger, the group begins to wake. There are no alarms, no schedules. Only the natural signal of the rising sun. People shift, stretch, and slowly become active again. The fire, now reduced to embers, may be stirred back to life. The day begins quietly. The return of daily movement. With daylight comes movement. The group prepares to begin the day's tasks. Some may gather tools. Others observe the surroundings. There is no clear separation between roles. Each person contributes in different ways. The day unfolds based on need. The repetition of routine. Although each day is different, certain patterns repeat. Searching for food. Moving across the land. Resting during the heat. Returning at night. This repetition creates a sense of rhythm. Even without structure, there is consistency. This rhythm becomes the foundation of daily life. The learning of the young. Younger members of the group learn by watching. There are no formal lessons. No written instructions. Learning happens through observation and imitation. Children watch how tools are made, how food is gathered, how movement is guided. Over time, they begin to participate. This process ensures that knowledge continues. The role of play and exploration. Even in a world focused on survival, there is room for exploration. Younger individuals may test their environment, climb, run, and interact with the world around them. This activity helps develop coordination and understanding. It also encourages curiosity. Through play, early humans learn about their surroundings. The importance of awareness. Awareness remains essential at all times. The environment can change quickly. Animals move unpredictably. Weather shifts. Remaining alert helps prevent danger. This awareness becomes a constant part of life. Even in calm moments, attention is maintained. The changing landscape over time. Over long periods, the land itself changes. Rivers shift. Forests grow or fade. Climate moves between colder and warmer phases. These changes influence where humans can live. They also shape the movement of animals and plants. Early humans must adapt continuously. The quiet continuity of life. Life continues in this way for thousands of years. Generations are born, grow, and pass on knowledge. The same patterns repeat across time. Movement, survival, rest, and connection. These simple patterns form the base of human existence. The calm between moments. And in between all of this, there are quiet moments. Moments without movement. Without urgency. Just the presence of the world. The land. The sky. The slow passing of time. The endless movement across the land. In the world of early humans, movement was not a choice, but a way of life that shaped everything they did. There were no permanent homes, no fixed cities, and no borders dividing one place from another. Instead, the land stretched endlessly in all directions, changing slowly with the seasons. Grasslands would grow and fade, rivers would swell and shrink, and animals would move in patterns that had to be followed carefully. Early humans learned to move with this rhythm. They traveled not in straight lines, but in patterns shaped by memory, instinct, and experience. A group might return to the same general areas over time, not because they owned the land, but because they understood it. They knew where water could be found, where certain plants would grow, and where animals might pass through during different times of the year. This movement required patience. There was no rushing. Each step was part of a longer journey that could last days, weeks, or even longer. The pace of life was steady, not slow in a passive way, but deliberate. Every movement had a purpose. And over time, this constant walking, observing, and adapting shaped both the human body and the human mind. The endless movement across the land. In the world of early humans, movement was not a choice, but a way of life that shaped everything they did. There were no permanent homes, no fixed cities, and no borders dividing one place from another. Instead, the land stretched endlessly in all directions, changing slowly with the seasons. Grasslands would grow and fade, rivers would swell and shrink, and animals would move in patterns that had to be followed carefully. Early humans learned to move with this rhythm. They traveled not in straight lines, but in patterns shaped by memory, instinct, and experience. A group might return to the same general areas over time, not because they owned the land, but because they understood it. They knew where water could be found, where certain plants would grow, and where animals might pass through during different times of the year. This movement required patience. There was no rushing. Each step was part of a longer journey that could last days, weeks, or even longer. The pace of life was steady, not slow in a passive way, but deliberate. Every movement had a purpose. And over time, this constant walking, observing, and adapting shaped both the human body and the human mind. The slow development of thought and awareness. As early humans continued to live, move, and adapt, something else was slowly developing. Their ability to think, remember, and understand the world around them was growing. This change did not happen suddenly. It took place over thousands of years. Small improvements in memory allowed people to remember important locations. Better communication allowed them to share that knowledge with others. The ability to plan ahead began to emerge. Instead of reacting only to what was happening in the moment, early humans could begin to anticipate what might happen next. This shift was significant. It meant that survival was no longer based only on instinct. It began to include thought. Scientists believe that this gradual increase in cognitive ability was influenced by many factors. The use of tools required planning and coordination. Social living required communication and understanding. The control of fire may have extended waking hours, allowing for more interaction and learning. All of these elements work together over time, shaping the development of the human brain. The slow development of thought and awareness. As early humans continued to live, move, and adapt, something else was slowly developing. Their ability to think, remember, and understand the world around them was growing. This change did not happen suddenly. It took place over thousands of years. Small improvements in memory allowed people to remember important locations. Better communication allowed them to share that knowledge with others. The ability to plan ahead began to emerge. Instead of reacting only to what was happening in the moment, early humans could begin to anticipate what might happen next. This shift was significant. It meant that survival was no longer based only on instinct. It began to include thought. Scientists believe that this gradual increase in cognitive ability was influenced by many factors. The use of tools required planning and coordination. Social living required communication and understanding. The control of fire may have extended waking hours, allowing for more interaction and learning. All of these elements work together over time, shaping the development of the human brain. The role of fire in shaping human life. Among all the changes that shaped early human life, the control of fire stands as one of the most important. At first, fire may have been something observed from nature, lightning striking dry land, or flames spreading across grass. Over time, early humans learned not only to approach fire, but to preserve it, carry it, and eventually create it. This shift changed everything. Fire brought warmth in colder environments, allowing humans to survive in places that would otherwise be too harsh. It provided light after sunset, extending the usable hours of the day. But perhaps most importantly, it changed the way humans ate. Cooking food broke it down, making it easier to chew and digest. This meant the body could extract more energy from the same amount of food. Some scientists believe this increased energy availability supported the gradual growth of the human brain. Fire also changed social behavior. It created a central place where people could gather, a shared point of light in the darkness. Around the fire, communication may have become more frequent, more complex. The fire did not just provide survival. It created space for connection, reflection, and the slow development of thought. The experience of the natural world. To live as an early human was to experience the world directly, without separation. There were no walls, no artificial sounds, no constant distractions. The senses were always engaged. The ground beneath the feet, the texture of plants, the movement of air across the skin, the sounds of animals in the distance. Every part of the environment was felt in a way that modern life rarely allows. This constant sensory awareness shaped how early humans understood the world. It sharpened their ability to notice small changes, to detect movement, to recognize patterns. Over time, this heightened awareness became a key part of survival. It also created a different relationship with time. Without artificial structures, life unfolded at the pace of the natural world. Slow, steady, and continuous. The gradual formation of social bonds. As early humans lived in groups, their relationships became more complex. Survival depended not only on individual ability, but on cooperation. Sharing food, protecting one another, and working together created stronger connections. Over time, these repeated interactions formed bonds that went beyond simple necessity. Trust began to develop. Recognition. A sense of belonging within the group. This social structure played a critical role in human development. It allowed knowledge to be shared, skills to be taught, experiences to be remembered collectively. The group became more than a collection of individuals. It became a unit, one that moved, adapted, and survived together. The long arc of human development. Looking across the vast span of time, early human life represents the beginning of a long and continuous journey. From simple tools to more advanced thinking. From small groups to complex societies. Every small change builds upon the last. There is no single moment where everything changes. Instead, there is a gradual progression. A slow unfolding of ability, understanding, and connection. The actions of early humans, walking, observing, creating, communicating, set the foundation for everything that would come later. Cities, languages, cultures, and civilizations all trace their origins back to these early patterns. And yet, at this stage, life remains simple, grounded in the present, shaped by the land, and guided by the quiet rhythm of survival. The silence before language fully formed. Before language became what we recognize today, there was a long period where communication existed in a more subtle form. Early humans relied on sounds, gestures, facial expressions, and shared understanding built through experience. A look, a movement, or a small sound could carry meaning. Over time, these forms of communication became more refined. Patterns began to emerge. Certain sounds may have been repeated for specific actions or objects. This gradual shift did not happen quickly. It unfolded across generations, shaped by necessity. the need to hunt together, to warn of danger, to share knowledge. Each of these pressures encouraged clearer communication. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the foundation of language began to form. Not as a sudden invention, but as a natural extension of human interaction. A quiet evolution that would eventually allow for storytelling, teaching, and the sharing of complex ideas. The relationship between hunger and movement. Hunger was one of the most consistent forces shaping early human life. It determined when the group moved, where they traveled, and how they spent their time. There was no stored abundance, no long-term supply that could be relied upon. Food had to be found, gathered, or hunted regularly. This created a constant awareness of the environment. Where food had been found before. Where it might be found again. When it would be worth returning to a certain place. This relationship between hunger and movement created a natural cycle. Eat, move, search, rest. It was not rushed, but it was continuous. And over time, this cycle shaped both behavior and knowledge. Teaching early humans not just how to survive, but how to navigate the world with intention. The changing sky and early awareness of patterns. Above, early humans stretched a sky untouched by artificial light. At night, the stars appeared in vast numbers. Bright, steady, and constant. Over time, patterns in the sky may have been noticed. The movement of stars. The phases of the moon. The changing position of the sun throughout the year. These patterns did not yet form formal systems of astronomy. But they may have provided a sense of consistency. A quiet background rhythm that mirrored the cycles of life on the ground. The sky became something familiar. Something observed over and over again. And through this repeated observation, early humans began to recognize that the world moved in patterns. That change itself could be understood. The enduring simplicity of early life. Despite all the development taking place, early human life remained simple in structure. There were no large systems of control. No written laws. No built environments shaping behavior. Instead, life was guided by immediate needs. Food, safety, movement, rest. This simplicity did not mean life was easy. It required constant awareness, effort, and adaptation. But it also meant that life remained closely tied to the present moment. There was little separation between thought and action, between need and response. And in that simplicity, there was a kind of clarity. A direct experience of the world that would slowly change as human society became more complex. The passing of generations in a world without records. In the world of early humans, there were no written records to mark time. No names carved into stone, no dates, no histories recorded in words. And yet life continued across countless generations. Parents raised children, and those children grew and learned, carrying forward what had been shown to them. Knowledge moved not through writing, but through observation and repetition. How to shape a tool. Where to find water. When to move, and when to stay. Each generation lived within the same patterns, but also made small changes. Adjustments based on experience. Over long stretches of time, these small changes accumulated. What began as simple behavior slowly became more refined. But at any single moment, life felt much the same. A continuous thread, unbroken, stretching forward through time. The feeling of space and distance. The world of early humans was vast. There were no boundaries to define where one place ended and another began. Only open land, stretching outward in every direction. Distance was not measured in miles or numbers, but in time and effort. How long it took to walk. How far the body could travel before needing rest. This created a different relationship with space. Places were known not by maps, but by experience. A river remembered. A hill recognized. A path walked before. This way of understanding space was deeply personal. Built through movement, memory, and repeated journeys across the same land. The balance between risk and safety. Every decision in early human life involved a balance. Moving to a new area might offer more food, but also unknown dangers. Staying in one place might be safer, but resources could become limited. This constant balancing of risk and safety shaped behavior. It encouraged caution, awareness, and planning. Groups learned to observe signs, to notice changes, to respond carefully rather than react quickly. Over time, this balance became part of instinct. A quiet calculation happening beneath conscious thought, helping guide decisions in a world where survival depended on it. The slow building of human identity. Across thousands of years, something subtle began to form. Not just survival, not just movement, but identity. A sense of belonging within a group, recognition of others, memory of shared experience. This was not identity in the modern sense. It was simpler, more immediate, but it marked the beginning of something important. The understanding that individuals were part of something larger, a group, a pattern, a shared way of life. This quiet development would eventually grow into culture, language, and society. But here, in its earliest form, it remains soft and undefined, just beginning to take shape. The constant presence of the natural world. For early humans, the natural world was not something visited or observed from a distance. It was always present. There was no separation between life and environment. The ground beneath them, the air around them, and the sounds that filled the space were all part of a single continuous experience. There were no artificial barriers, no walls to block the wind, no structures to soften the sound of rain. Everything was felt directly. The warmth of the sun during the day, the cooling air as evening approached, the texture of the land underfoot. This constant exposure shaped awareness. It created a kind of understanding that was not learned through explanation, but through presence. Through simply being in the world, again and again, over time. The gentle passing of seasons. Time, for early humans, was most clearly marked by the changing of seasons. There were no calendars to track days or months. Instead, the land itself revealed the passage of time. Plants would grow, then fade. Animals would appear, then move on. Temperatures would shift slowly, almost unnoticed at first, until the change became clear. Each season brought different challenges and opportunities. Some offered abundance. Others required greater effort to find food and shelter. Over time, these patterns became familiar. Not through measurement, but through memory. The body learned to recognize them, to feel when change was coming. The experience of waiting. Not every moment in early human life was filled with action. There were long periods of waiting. Waiting for animals to appear. Waiting for the heat of the day to pass. Waiting for the right time to move. This waiting was not empty. It was filled with quiet awareness, observation, listening, stillness. In these moments, the pace of life slowed even further. And within that slowness, the mind had space. Space to notice, to remember, to exist without urgency. The quiet continuation of life. And through all of this, life continued, without interruption, without clear beginning or end. Days flowed into nights. Nights returned to days. Generations followed one another, each living within the same patterns, the same rhythms, the same connection to the land. There were no milestones marking progress, no clear sense of history as we understand it now. Only the present moment, lived again and again, steady, unbroken, continuous. The subtle awareness of the body. In this world, the human body becomes one of the most important tools for understanding the environment. There are no instruments to measure temperature, distance, or time. Instead, the body itself becomes the reference. The warmth of the sun is felt directly on the skin. The cooling air signals the approach of evening. The strain in the muscles marks how far one has traveled. Hunger builds gradually, reminding the group when it is time to search again. Fatigue signals the need to rest. Over time, this constant attention to the body creates a deep awareness. People learn to listen to these signals without needing to think about them. The body and the environment become closely connected, each informing the other. The feeling of uncertainty. Life in the prehistoric world carries a constant sense of uncertainty. There is no guarantee of what the next day will bring. Food may be plentiful one day and scarce the next. Weather may remain calm or shift suddenly. Animals may appear or disappear without warning. This uncertainty shapes behavior. It encourages caution, patience, adaptability. Rather than resisting change, early humans learned to move with it, to adjust slowly, to respond rather than control. And over time, this ability to live with uncertainty becomes a quiet strength. The absence of ownership. In this early stage of human life, the concept of ownership does not yet exist in the way it does today. The land is not divided. There are no borders, no claims, no fixed territories in the modern sense. People move through the environment rather than possessing it. Resources are used when they are available, then left behind. This creates a different relationship with the world. One that is based on use rather than control, on movement rather than permanence. This absence of ownership allows for flexibility. But it also requires awareness, as nothing is guaranteed to remain. The endless continuity of the world. And beyond all of this, the world continues. The land stretches outward. The sky moves above. The cycles repeat. Day becomes night. Night becomes day. Seasons shift. Generations pass. There is no clear boundary between what has come before and what will come after. Only a continuous flow. A steady unfolding of life. And within that flow, early humans move, adapt, and exist. Quietly. Naturally. As part of something much larger than themselves. The slow awareness of surroundings. In the quiet stretches of the day, when no immediate task demands attention, awareness naturally expands. Early humans are not constantly distracted. There are no sudden interruptions, no overwhelming streams of information. Instead, there is space. Space to notice the smallest details. The way light shifts across the ground as the sun moves. The subtle motion of grass bending in the wind. The distant movement of animals along the horizon. This awareness is not forced. It develops naturally through stillness, through repeated exposure to the same environment. Over time, this quiet observation becomes a skill, one that allows early humans to understand their world without needing to analyze it in words. The gradual shaping of behavior. Behavior does not change all at once. It forms slowly, shaped by experience. A successful hunt encourages similar actions in the future. A mistake leads to adjustment. These small shifts accumulate over time. What begins as trial and error becomes habit. And those habits, repeated across generations, become patterns. Patterns that define how a group moves, reacts, and survives. There is no written instruction guiding this process. Only experience, repeated again and again, until it becomes instinct. The gentle passing of energy. Energy in this world is carefully balanced. Every movement requires effort. Walking long distances, gathering food, shaping tools. All draw from the body's reserves. Because of this, energy is used with awareness. Movements are efficient. Unnecessary effort is avoided. Rest is taken when needed. This creates a natural pacing, a rhythm that prevents exhaustion and supports endurance. Life is not rushed. It flows at a speed that the body can sustain. The presence of the unknown. Beyond what is familiar, there is always the unknown. Areas not yet explored. Sounds not yet understood. Movements in the distance that cannot be immediately explained. This unknown is not always threatening, but it requires attention. It encourages caution. It shapes how far a group is willing to travel, and when they choose to return. Over time, the unknown becomes smaller, as more of the environment is experienced and remembered. But it never fully disappears. It remains a quiet presence, shaping awareness and behavior. The subtle relationship with light and darkness. In the world of early humans, light and darkness define everything. There are no artificial sources to extend the day beyond what nature provides. The sun determines when activity begins and when it comes to an end. As light spreads across the land, energy rises with it. Movement begins. Tasks unfold naturally, and as the light slowly fades, so does the pace of life. Darkness is not resisted. It is accepted. The absence of light brings a different state of being. Quieter, slower, more inward. This daily transition between light and darkness becomes one of the most consistent rhythms in early human life. The feeling of time without measurement. Time in this world is not counted. It is felt. There are no hours, no minutes, no structured divisions. Only the experience of change. The length of a walk. The time between hunger and satisfaction. The gradual shift from morning to evening. This creates a very different relationship with time. One that is less about tracking and more about experiencing. Moments are not measured. They are lived. And in that way, time becomes something continuous, unbroken, flowing without clear boundaries. The stability within constant change. Although the environment is always changing, there is a form of stability within it. The cycles repeat. Day and night. Warm and cool. Movement and rest. These repeating patterns create a sense of familiarity. Even when conditions shift, the overall rhythm remains. Early humans come to rely on this rhythm. It provides a quiet sense of predictability in an otherwise uncertain world. This balance between change and stability becomes one of the defining features of life. The near stillness before sleep. As night deepens, and the final traces of activity fade, the world approaches stillness. The fire burns low. The air cools. Movement becomes minimal. Breathing slows. The group rests together. The land itself feels quiet. Not empty but calm. Held in a moment between one day and the next. A pause. Before everything begins again. The stability within constant change. Although the environment is always changing, there is a form of stability within it. The cycles repeat. Day and night. Warm and cool. Movement and rest. These repeating patterns create a sense of familiarity. Even when conditions shift, the overall rhythm remains. Early humans come to rely on this rhythm. It provides a quiet sense of predictability in an otherwise uncertain world. This balance between change and stability becomes one of the defining features of life. The near stillness before sleep. As night deepens, and the final traces of activity fade, the world approaches stillness. The fire burns low. The air cools. Movement becomes minimal. Breathing slows. The group rests together. The land itself feels quiet. Not empty but calm. Held in a moment between one day and the next. A pause. Before everything begins again. The long, quiet beginning of everything. And in this quiet, steady way of living, something important is taking place. Not all at once. Not in a way that can be seen clearly. But slowly. Across time. The foundation of everything that will come later is forming. Language, culture, society. All of it begins here. In small actions. Repeated again and again. In a world that is still simple. Still quiet. Still close to the land. And as the night holds steady, and the fire fades to its final glow, this early human world rests. The soft repetition of existence. In this early world, life is not divided into separate chapters. There is no clear beginning, no defined end. Only repetition. The same patterns return again and again. Waking with the light. Moving across the land. Searching. Resting. Gathering near the fire. Sleeping beneath the open sky. At first, each day may feel like its own experience. But over time, the repetition becomes familiar. Comforting even. The predictability of these patterns creates a quiet sense of continuity. Life is not rushed forward. It unfolds in cycles. Steady. Endless. The gentle awareness of others. Within the group, awareness extends beyond the self. Each person becomes familiar with the movements and presence of others. A shift in posture. A change in pace. A glance, a sound. These small signals carry meaning. Without complex language, understanding still exists. Built through time spent together. Through shared experience. This awareness strengthens connection. It allows the group to move almost as one. Not perfectly, but naturally. Guided by subtle understanding rather than spoken instruction. The world unchanged by human design. At this point in time, the world has not yet been shaped by human construction. There are no roads cut into the land. No buildings rising from the ground. No boundaries dividing one space from another. The landscape exists as it has for countless generations. Untouched. Unaltered. Early humans move through it, but do not change it in lasting ways. Their presence is temporary. Light. Passing. And when they leave an area, the land returns to stillness. As if nothing had been there at all. The endless continuation into tomorrow. And as this day fades completely into night, and night slowly gives way to another morning, everything continues. Without interruption. Without pause. The same patterns will return. The same rhythms will guide the next day. And the day after that. Life moves forward, not in leaps, but in quiet steps. Small moments, repeating across time. Stretching far into the past. And continuing slowly into the future. The slow settling of the world. As the final moments of the night stretch on, everything begins to settle even further. The last movements have faded. The fire has reduced to a soft, steady glow. The air feels still. There is no urgency left in the world. Only quiet. Only rest. The land, the sky, and the people within it all share this same stillness. The deep quiet of the prehistoric night. Beyond the small circle of warmth, the world is dark. Not empty, but quiet. The sounds that remain are soft and distant. The kind that come and go without drawing attention. The vast landscape rests beneath the sky. Unmoving. Uninterrupted. Held in a moment of calm. The continuation of the cycle. And as this quiet holds, the cycle continues. Unseen but constant. The earth turns. The light will return. Another day will begin. Just as it has before. Just as it will again. This rhythm does not stop. It carries everything forward. Gently. Without force. A final moment in the world of early humans. Now, imagine one final moment in this early world. The group rests. The fire glows faintly. The land stretches out in silence. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is loud. Everything is as it should be. Simple. Calm. Still. The slow settling of the world. As the final moments of the night stretch on, everything begins to settle even further. The last movements have faded. The fire has reduced to a soft, steady glow. The air feels still. There is no urgency left in the world. Only quiet. Only rest. The land, the sky, and the people within it all share this same stillness. The deep quiet of the prehistoric night. Beyond the small circle of warmth, the world is dark. Not empty, but quiet. The sounds that remain are soft and distant. The kind that come and go without drawing attention. The vast landscape rests beneath the sky. Unmoving. Uninterrupted. Held in a moment of calm. The continuation of the cycle. And as this quiet holds, the cycle continues. Unseen but constant. The earth turns. The light will return. Another day will begin. Just as it has before. Just as it will again. This rhythm does not stop. It carries everything forward. Gently. Without force. A final moment in the world of early humans. Now, imagine one final moment in this early world. The group rests. The fire glows faintly. The land stretches out in silence. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is loud. Everything is as it should be. Simple. Calm. Still.